Ladies and gentlemen, this is Command & Conquer Red Alert 2, an RTS game that pulls absolutely no stops in bringing good old-fashioned fun. Released in 2000 shortly after Tiberian Sun, Red Alert 2 was Westwood Studios' last Command & Conquer game before they were bought by Electronic Arts, and they were looking to go out with a bang. This game is 50 kinds of awesome and kicks 70 kinds of ass. I cannot tell you the amount of hours I spent playing this masterpiece. It's addictive, fun, and oh so satisfying. It's one of my favorite games of all time, and let me tell you why. About a decade after the events of Red Alert, where a European faction called the Allies defeated the warmongering Soviet Union, the Allies installed a puppet leader named Alexander Romanov to succeed the ousted Joseph Stalin. They believe that he is level-headed enough to not wage war over all of Europe and the world. That theory pretty much went out the window when Romanov sent Soviet troops to invade New York. I don't know why he decided to do that. Maybe it's because of the fact that he's an aristocrat who hates democracy and comes from the long line of Tsars, but that's my theory. So now America has to strike back. This time, President Dugan hires a general from the south known as General Carville, who spends more time ordering you around than ordering troops around. You know, you are called a general for a reason, right?
I know, Canada. More cows up here than people.
Lieutenant Ava, who looks like a girl from the Kodiak in Tiberian Sun, gives you the orders on the Allied side, and Lieutenant Sophia does so on the Soviet side. There are also supporting characters including General Carville, whose vision of diplomacy involves some form of nuclear weaponry and cowboys, and General Vladimir, who, despite being a high-ranking Soviet soldier, looks like a hobo who forgot to shave. This game also introduces you to Yuri, a psychic that is able to implement mind control and creeps you out in ways not thought possible.
Comrade General, you are proving even more tenacious than I thought. What a great threat you are to your enemies.
Thank you, Yuri. You just gave me a week's worth of sleepless nights. Tanya makes a return to Red Alert 2 and is a lot crazier than before, but that's a good thing. The direction that the game series took is interesting considering the seriousness that Red Alert 1 had. I'll do a compare and contrast here. The leader of the Soviets was Joseph Stalin, a ruthless dictator who turned Russia from a third world country into an economic superpower, at the expense of the morality of the Russian government, and the lives of 10 million of his own people. He led entire armies to battle Nazi Germany's military machine in 1994 with the Battle of Stalingrad. Premier Romanov has a pet turtle.
I wanted to introduce you to my little friend. This is Sam, like Uncle Sam.
You see, this is where I'm at crossroads. On one hand, I don't like how the series went from serious and realistic to a big joke, like it's presenting itself as a parody of the Cold War. I mean, Red Alert was hammy, but unintentionally so you can follow the story while laughing at it a bit. Red Alert 2, on the other hand, relies entirely on hamminess to present the story, making me not take it seriously. So many of these characters seem like they came from a kid's comic book taking place in the Cold War era. On the other hand, the sheer ridiculousness is why I love this game. You gotta hand it to Westwood for making these cutscenes and phrases so funny and going no holds barred in terms of introducing types of weaponry. I mean, characters and units like the Crazy Ivan, the Chrono Legionnaire, the Navy SEAL, who sounds like a frat boy for some reason, and the Mirage Tank wouldn't fit at all in Red Alert 1. And yet, they are so memorable. It made you feel like even a serious video game series like Command & Conquer can make fun of itself. However, as ridiculous as this game is, it still has a level of seriousness to it. The units and vehicles don't feel like I was moving a bunch of toys around, and they don't look too cartoonish. Kudos goes to Westwood for finding the perfect balance between funny and serious in Red Alert 2. The concept in this game is to build a base and think of a strategy to eliminate your opponent or opponents. There are two sides that you can command. The Allies, a group of armies worldwide whose goal is to defeat the Soviet Union, and the Soviets, who are dedicated to making sure the entire world follows the hammer and sickle. The Allies are the subversive faction relying on hit-and-run tactics, speed, and power in numbers. The Soviets are the powerhouse faction, where they follow one rule, and one rule only. Bigger is better. Unlike the designs in the first game where the arsenal has a semblance of realism in it, the weapons here break the ice in terms of craziness. The Allies have the standard tanks, scout vehicles, and infantry, but they also have units like the Mirage tank, which disguises itself as a tree. It also fires some sort of solar heat ray to burn enemies. They also have the Prism tank, which is base destruction on wheels. It uses prism laser technology to absolutely annihilate the toughest buildings in just a few shots. I mean, look at this, 6 prism tanks turning a large base into a giant pile of rubble. The Soviets also aren't short in the craziness department. They have their powerful tanks, flak tracks, and V3 rocket launchers. But they also have terror drones, cheap-ass robots that tear up vehicles from the inside out. If you have so much as one terror drone in the vehicle rush, the entire army is as good as finished unless you have a repair vehicle or a service depot nearby. And again, the Mammoth tank makes a return in this game, but is given a redesign and named the Apocalypse tank. I still like calling this thing a Mammoth tank though. I mean, if it has 2 barrels, anti-air missiles, and is so big that it can crush a stadium, it's a Mammoth tank. Why name it anything else? In infantry, the Allies have well-trained GIs, engineers, spies, rocketeers, and Navy SEALs, but they have Chrono Legionnaires, soldiers equipped with chrono technology that can teleport anywhere on the map in a split second, and can erase things out of time and space as if they never existed. Tanya Adams makes a return in this game, and even though she is pretty much a glorified Navy SEAL, I still love playing as her because she is so filled with life. I'll get into that later. The Soviets have Crazy Ivan, an escaped insane asylum inmate who places bombs everywhere. The bombs he places will take a while before they explode. During that time, you can use an engineer to remove the bomb or risk getting it blown up. The Tesla Trooper is Tesla technology on feet, and they're effective against vehicles and infantry. They're slow though, and weak against an excessive amount of infantry. The Allies have their magnificent navy carry over from the first game, with destroyers, Aegis cruisers, which are very effective against air threats, and aircraft carriers. Humongous ships that send out small attack jets to drop a crapload of bombs on a target from a great range. The battle cruiser is gone though. Maybe it's because of the fact that it can smash an entire base in seconds, making it too powerful for its own good. If so, then good for Westwood for taking this overpowered unit out of the equation. The Soviets also have a decent navy, unlike Red Alert 1, where their navy is almost non-existent. They have Sea Scorpions and submarines, but they also have a tough unit called the Dreadnought, a gigantic ship that launches 2 dangerous missiles that are undoubtedly powerful, but also can be shot down. Oh, I also forgot to mention that they have 2 of the most ridiculous units I've ever seen in an RTS. Mind-controlled giant squid and trained dolphins that fire sonar rays like Echo does. I am not freaking joking. These are actually units in this game. That doesn't make the game worse though, but wow. Air dominance is switched around in this game, with the Allies ruling the air with the Harriers and transport helicopters, and the radar doubling as a 4-plane helipad. The Soviets don't actually get any air units until very late in the game, but when they do, they have one of the most powerful units in the entire game.
Year of reporting.
This 50,000 ton tank of pure concentrated "you're screwed" is the toughest unit in the game, being able to take a crap load of shots before going down. If you have 5 of them, you've just won the game, because unless your enemy's base is made out of nothing but flag cannons or missile launchers, it's not going to survive this onslaught of Kirovs. The buildings, however, are pretty balanced. The Soviets once again have the Tesla coil. No, I'm not afraid of that thing anymore, because the Allies have this. That's right, the Prism Tower. This Tower of Death can fry infantry and seriously damage vehicles. If 2 prism towers are placed near each other, both of them can combine their powers to shoot an extremely powerful prism beam that'll destroy the toughest of units in one hit. Finally, a fearful defensive building that the Allies can call their own. And now, let's talk about the super weapons. Super weapons are buildings that are dedicated to completely demortifying your opponent by devastating him with a powerful weapon. Each side has two super weapons, the powerful one-shot super weapon and the less powerful support super weapon. The Allies' powerful super weapon is a weather control device, a device that pisses off God and sends his wrath on one target. That target will then be buried by a storm so powerful that it makes Katrina look tame in comparison. Their support super weapon is the Chronosphere, a device that teleports 9 vehicles to any specified location. This can be used to flank bases from behind unexpectedly. The Soviets' powerful super weapon is a nuclear missile. Unlike the first game where the nuclear missile wouldn't even destroy a weapons factory, the nuke in this game brings the pain by not only severely damaging the target, but leaving deadly nuclear fallout, turning infantry into unrecognizable sludge and destroying light armored units in a matter of seconds. Their support super weapon is the Iron Curtain, a device that covers 9 vehicles in a protective dark shield that makes them invulnerable to any damage for an amount of time. This is useful for severely damaging an enemy's base that is heavily defended. One thing that made this game interesting is the addition of famous landmarks, such as the Statue of Liberty, the Eiffel Tower, the Smithsonian Museum, St. Basil's Cathedral, and the Kremlin. And to be honest, I have done some things to these buildings that would have made me a war criminal in real life. I remember one mission where you had to turn the Eiffel Tower into a humongous Tesla coil of electric death. Another had you destroying famous American landmarks for money, such as the Lincoln Memorial, the Washington Monument, and the Smithsonian Museum. These types of missions border on controversial, as some of them had you destroying the Pentagon and capturing the World Trade Center. Even worse, you get a cash bonus if you destroy them. Consider the fact that this was released just a year before September 11th. But it's just coincidence, right? Westwood has definitely made skirmish mode better than the first game. You can save skirmish games with a computer now. You can also capture tech buildings, neutral buildings that bring benefits to the player that captures them. Such buildings offer things such as generating cash, sending paratroopers, and repairing vehicles. The two sides are also further divided into individual nations that have specific attributes, along with a special unit exclusive to that nation. Much like in the Age of Empires series where you have countless civilizations to choose from, and each civilization has strengths and weaknesses. Each nation is specific to a playing style. Great Britain, Libya, and Cuba is perfect for harassing the player with hidden run tactics, as they are British snipers that kill infantry from a long range, and Libyan demolition trucks and Cuban terrorists, both suicide bombers. Iraq and France are great for defense, as Iraq has a desolator that generates dangerous nuclear fields, and France has a very powerful Grand Cannon. Korea is great for air units because they have the toughest nails Black Eagle. Germany is perfect for preventing tank rushes with a tank destroyer, and America has paratroopers? But aren't paratroopers given to you anyway as a tech building extra? Wow, imagine America, of all nations, getting the ass end of the nation equation. Gameplay is much improved from Red Alert's previous outing. Assigning waypoints is easier than ever. Simply press and hold Z and issue orders to your units. It's fast, intuitive, and it keeps you from wasting time fiddling around with waypoints like in Tiberian Sun. The interface is also improved. The sidebar is less cluttered because it's divided into 4 sections: regular buildings, defensive buildings, infantry, and vehicles. This is definitely an improvement over past games that have you scrolling through a sidebar to build a unit you want. You can finally attack move in this game. Press and hold, control shift, and click on empty space, and your units will go to that spot and destroy any units that go in your way. It took a while for the series to actually have this feature, since attack move has been in RTS games since 1998 with StarCraft. But better late than never, I suppose. The gameplay itself is very fast paced compared to Tiberian Sun, which is the slowest pace in the entire series. Battles can end in a matter of seconds, and a battle that lasts 2 minutes is considered a humongous battle, unlike in Tiberian Sun, where it's just a tedious battle. Winning matches is a matter of snappy decision making mixed with good reflexes and dexterity. It's not nearly as focused on that area as StarCraft is, but it's good enough to make matches competitive and just plain fun. Another thing that this game has that makes this game have a lasting legacy is how easy it is to modify the game, bringing all kinds of fun beyond the game. For example, take a look at this little creation called the Atom Tank. This overpowered monstrosity was modded into this game by me in 5 minutes. Normally games like this take hours, but I knew nothing about this game and learned just enough to mod this game in 5 minutes. That is damn awesome. The graphics are much improved from the past games. Tiberian Sun's isometric engine is pushed to the limit in this game, as each vehicle and building looks gorgeous and beautiful, and each side has their own distinctive style. You can tell which unit belongs to the Soviets and which one belongs to the Allies. Even the infantry looks much better than past outings. They don't look cartoony anymore, and you can even differentiate units from different units, instead of just rooting for a specific unit in a big battle. The special effects are much improved, as lasers look realistic, electric attacks look powerful, debris flies everywhere when things are destroyed, explosions are humongous and nicely detailed, and ambient lights and day and night cycles give this game an atmospheric feeling. The voice acting in this game is top notch, and it gives the units life and purpose. You can hear the excitement in the GI's voice, the subtle yet deadly voice that the Chrono Legionnaire has, the tedium and lack of purpose in the conscript's voice, the liveliness and borderline craziness in Crazy Ivan's voice,
I lost the ball. Happy?
and a why the hell am I doing this feeling in the Flag Trooper's voice.
At least I have job.
Tanya sounds even crazier in the first game with her pumped up voice oozing with an urge to kill some Reds. You see, that's one of the major reasons why Red Alert 2 is such a memorable game. Each unit has a certain heart and soul put into them to make them stand out and be different from other units, instead of them being a bunch of bytes, pixels, and boring sound bites. It's these little details that make Red Alert 2 one of the best RTS games of all time. The music gives this game style, and I can safely say that Frank Kopacki is a master of making his works have their own style. I mean, I listened to the soundtrack of Tiberian Sun and Red Alert 2, and found it hard to believe that the same music composer made these tracks. This time, Red Alert 2 goes for an industrial techno-funk and rock style, getting you pumped up and ready to kick some ass. I mean, it just has this natural quality to them that makes you bob your head and tap your feet as you order your tanks to smash your opponent's army. None but the best and legendary RTS games of the golden age of RTSs, the mid-late 1990s, make you feel this way about the music. Once again, great job by Frank K for filling my ears with pure awesomeness. In conclusion, Red Alert 2 is a spectacular return to form in the Command & Conquer series, and a fantastic conclusion to Red Alert's dominance in the real-time strategy market. They took what made Command & Conquer great in the first place, killed it what held it back, and made the result 10 times better than before. I have never seen an RTS game in history, other than StarCraft of course, with so much detail and work put into it, and the effort more than certainly paid off. Simply put, you cannot go without this classic. It is a perfect addition to any PC gamer's collection, and if you like action-packed RTS games, you owe it to yourself to play this masterpiece. And since this is Westwood's last game that they're going to develop in the Command & Conquer series, it felt appropriate that they're going to make a fantastic game for the fans before being brought up by EA. So thank you, Westwood Studios, for all the memories that you gave to your fans, including myself. You will be forever and sorely missed for your contributions to PC gaming and the RTS genre.
We will never surrender. Left for the Allies.
Primary Primary objective achieved.